Hello and welcome to this extra video from Glasgow Rangers Nation with me, your host Owen. Guys, this is the channel that brings you your team every day. We always bring you a news video early in the morning, as well as any other stories that go on throughout the day. Obviously, I've had a very busy day today. It's the first chance I've really got to sit down, take in the news of today, and to sort of record and think about, what announcement the club have made today. A major announcement from Rangers today, obviously. This was the announcement, obviously, it was made, and it was obviously then talked about by Michael Beale in his press conference as well. So on Twitter, the club said that Rangers FC can today announce that Scott Arfield, Philip Helander, Ryan Kent, Alan McGregor and Alfredo Morelos will leave the club upon the expiry of their contracts this summer. The players have given excellent service and will move on with the thanks of everyone at Rangers. So the announcement that those 5 players would be leaving the club this summer. Some expected, some not so expected, I would say. Well, perhaps one not so expected. Now, if we look at those 5 for a moment on that list there of departures this summer, Philip Helander, I don't think is a surprise. Obviously, Philip has been out an awful lot of time, injured, has only actually made 35 appearances for Rangers. And, has missed an awful lot of football, has missed the entirety of this season. Yes, he was a vital member of our 55 title-winning squad and was very talented and an exceptional defender. But I think, obviously, his lack of availability obviously damaged the fact that he would obviously not have his contract renewed by Rangers. Ryan Kent, I don't think it comes as a surprise at all to see Ryan leaving the club this summer. Now, there had been some argument earlier in the season amongst some, I think, that, wanted to retain the services of Ryan Kent. However, as this season has progressed, and Ryan's performances, I think it is fair to say, have got progressively worse, culminating in the fact that he was hooked off in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup by Michael Beale for, in Michael Beale's words, tactical reasons. Well, tactical reasons is coach speak for you're playing rubbish, get off. Alan McGregor, obviously, who is a club legend, someone who some people feel went on perhaps a season too long, perhaps should have retired after the Scottish Cup final last season. 41 has perhaps showed some of those 41 years. But, looking back across his career for Rangers, Alan has been an exceptional servant for the club and someone who, realistically will go down in history as one of the finest goalkeepers ever to play for Rangers. Alfredo Morelos, obviously not a surprise he's leaving. We knew he was going. That was announced by Michael Beale. And I think a lot of fans have echoed the fact that Michael has, as Michael has said, that that Alfie's lacked a bit of energy, he's lacked a bit of determination, and a lot of fans have said that for the past 12 to 18 months, Alfie seemed to be checked out and not participating fully for Rangers. Certainly in the case of Morelos and Kent, my personal opinion is that since the 55 title season, we have not seen the best of either of those players. One slightly surprising stat for me when it came to Alfredo Morelos was the fact that he's never scored more than 20 league goals for Rangers. 18 is his highest total. But certainly, obviously top scorer in Europe, so an outstanding servant for Rangers during that Europa League run. And in Europe overall, he's been absolutely brilliant. Apologies if you can hear my dog panting in the background. He is sat just across from me. And obviously, the one name that slightly surprised me on that list, and a name that I don't, some fans have kind of cited as being someone that they would have liked to have actually seen the club retained, perhaps on a 1-year contract, is Scott Arfield. Now, Scott Arfield obviously will depart the club this summer. Now, Scott is someone who in recent years has been more effective coming off the bench and has scored some pretty memorable goals. Take that semi-final goal, take obviously a lot of goals against Celtic, really making an impact from the bench. I think probably this season, the one that's going to go down as a memory for Scott Arfield at Rangers would be that 60 pass move against St Mirren that culminated into Scott darting into the area and putting it through the St Mirren goalkeeper's legs. If we look at those players individually, Ryan Kent made 113 appearances for Rangers, scoring 22 goals, including a number against that lot from across the city, and certainly in the early days of his career, terrorised them. Helander, 35 appearances and 3 goals, including a goal against Searle, against that lot from across the city. Morelos, 177 appearances, 78 goals. Arfield, 141 appearances and 29 goals. So certainly, a good return on that. All 5 of them, I think, have given outstanding service for the club. Now, like I said, the one name that perhaps surprises me a little is Scott Arfield. I thought that, given what Michael Beale had said about 2 of them had been offered new contracts, my opinion was that perhaps one of them was, in fact, Scott Arfield, but it now seems that was not the case, or that he was offered it and he turned that contract down. Stephen Davis is remaining at the club at the moment to work with the medical team to develop and obviously to get better as he's still injured. Obviously, still no news on Malik Tillman, who is another player who obviously returned to Bayern Munich. That is still seen as being 50-50. But look, we'll talk on the podcast after the post-match podcast on Thursday with Victoria a little bit more in depth about these players. But, they've all been fantastic servants. No matter what has happened over the last season and a bit, in terms of these players, they have all given fantastic service to the club. They have all, contributed at one time or another to success for the club. Been part of the 55 title season, been part of the Europa League run, the Scottish Cup win. There have been some good moments. Yes, I know in recent years, in the last 12 years it is coming up for, it has been sparse in terms of trophies. Yes, it has. I know that. I get that. 100% understand that. And that's not to standard for a club like Rangers. I understand that 100%. But I think, at this moment in time, we need to thank these players. And then, like Scott Arfield, we need to salute them for their service to the club. Now, I did release this as a couple of shorts earlier, but just I want to put this video on this video, if that makes sense. Here's Victoria reacting to the news that these players have.
Arfield, Kent, McGregor, Morelos, and Helander. 5 names I never thought I'd be saying in the same sentence, but unfortunately contract renewals are not going to be coming for them for next season with Rangers. So tomorrow we will be saying our final goodbyes, and I'm sure there might be a couple of tears shed at the end of the match, especially from these fantastic players that put so much into the club. Morelos scored one of my favourite goals in 2017 against Ross County, where he swooped right in front of the goalkeeper and scored in the net. So I'm going to talk about more in this in the up-and-coming podcast, and we will see how tomorrow's game goes. It's going to be an emotional one. Of course, there are many other highlights between each of these players and what they put into Rangers that I'm going to be talking about in the up-and-coming podcast with Owen. But I'm going to save that because I want to put a little bit more time than just 1 minute into each player and really highlight what they put into Rangers.
So there you have it, Victoria's reaction to those players that have obviously been announced. Those players will depart the club today. As she mentioned in the video, obviously we have got the podcast up and coming after obviously tomorrow night's game, which obviously is on the next day. The game, in terms of the game tomorrow night, it hasn't really been announced yet as how we will pay tribute to these players, whether these players will play, whether these players will play a part in the game tomorrow. Who knows? Obviously there are injury concerns. Obviously Helander will not. He is out injured. Whether McGregor will replace McCrory is unknown. Ryan Kent, whether or not he will play. Alfie Morelos, whether he will play. There is still obviously that uncertainty around, what will happen with these players. I think obviously that a lot of fans will want to kind of, pay tribute to them. Like I said, I know there's been a kind of a feeling against, say, Ryan and against Alfie this year with some of their performances, which, yes, have not been anywhere near good enough this season. Have not been up to the standard we require at Rangers. I understand that, but we've got to kind of look at the past, look at what they've achieved in the past, look at how they've performed in the past. That is kind of where we've got to look. Now, Morelos is back in training. There was no mention of Kent being back in training in Michael Beale's press conference. So, there's a chance, obviously, we will see Morelos. Michael Beale did say about the fact that they will rotate across the next 2 games, which obviously I think, will be happening. And I think that's got to be the case, hasn't it? You've got 2 games in a relatively short space of time. The Wednesday game against Hearts before Saturday's 12:30 kickoff, again shortening the time between games. In the end of that Hearts game and the start of that St Mirren game. So yeah, we are going to see some rotation. So I think you may see some of these players play in the next couple of games. There's nothing on the line anymore. I think, we have sort of kind of figured out where we're going to be this season, how this season's been. Michael Beale talked a little bit about Alfredo, who could feature on Wednesday. He said an unknown when he arrived, Alfredo has done fantastic. Looking back to our European games, he's been fantastic for us. When you look at the money spent, it's been a brilliant return with goal numbers, and he will be fondly remembered. That I think is true. He's a European top scorer. He has scored some fantastic goals for the club. And look, no matter what he's done over the last sort of year to 18 months that perhaps hasn't been up to standard, he has contributed outstandingly well in the past. So tomorrow night, we'll see what sort of what sort of tribute will be played, whether it'll be substitutions coming on, a chance to give them ovations, or whether they play and then they come off, or whether they'll just be paraded around before and after the game. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not privy to those decisions made by Michael Beale. We will see that. Obviously, join me for the live stream tomorrow here on Glasgow Rangers Nation. And like I said, we will look a little bit more depth at these players and their contributions in the podcast, the post-match podcast on Thursday, with myself and Victoria. Thank you so much for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation. As always, guys, remember, this is the channel to get your team every single day. So please hit that sub. Please ring that notification bell. Set it to all so you don't miss out. And if you can give the video a like, guys, I would appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Again, as always, we love having you on board. I would love to know what your comments are about these players in the chat below. Please let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, we are the people. We'll be back to speak to you again really soon here on Glasgow Rangers Nation, your team every day.